Hey everyone, thanks for joining. I'm Hashim, you're watching Pushing Film, and I'm here today joined by Lucy, who is based in the Gold Coast, and she also runs the YouTube channel Lucy Lumen's Analog Adventures. So thanks for joining, Lucy, and how are you doing today?
I'm really good. Thank you, Hashim. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
My pleasure. So just to start off, tell me a little bit about your background in terms of starting the channel. I feel like it's still pretty recently that you started it, maybe earlier this year. What made you decide to start the channel, and what's motivated you to kind of keep producing content at a fairly consistent rate?
Yeah, so the channel's pretty new, I think about 4 months now. We've been doing it. Yeah, I sort of started it. I had a baby 8 months ago and I was spending a lot of time at home and probably wasn't taking as many photos as I normally would, and just feeling a bit like I was losing my identity, I guess. Like it's hard becoming a parent. And yeah, it was my partner's idea to start a channel, but I was a bit apprehensive. And then we thought, look, we'll just give it a go. We'll do one video. And yeah, as soon as we started doing it, we were just kind of like addicted to it almost. Like it was just a really fun process. And yeah, my partner makes all the music for the videos. So then we started pairing ideas for videos with different types of music, and then that added another aspect to it. And we watch a lot of YouTube channels, including yours, obviously.
Thank you.
And and yeah, I sort of noticed there wasn't as many females on YouTube in the photography scene, and also I wanted to sometimes I just want to watch something entertaining rather than educational. And I felt there was a bit of a gap there. So yeah, I wanted to try and fill that and do something different. And yeah, hopefully that would inspire other people to not take film too seriously, or people who hadn't maybe thought about getting into film photography. It would inspire them to buy like a point and shoot and just go out and do it. And yeah, so that was kind of the thought behind it and why I started it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like been yeah, we've just been trying to do videos every 2 weeks since then. And as you know, it's a lot of work
Yeah.
to create content, but it's really, yeah, enjoyable. And I've met so many amazing people and like really connected with like the analog community, which is something that hasn't happened before. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Nice. And I think like you're doing that pretty well in terms of what you're aiming for is kind of catering to that. I mean, there is obviously still a lot that people can learn from your videos and probably do, but in terms of offering something a little bit different and keeping it entertaining and refreshing and just kind of fun to watch, like the sense I get is just you kind of going along for a walk with someone or learning a bit about them, like as you would if
Yeah.
you were sitting down in that room discussing something over a coffee or whatever, which is, yeah, I think really approachable for the beginner as opposed to something that's overly technical. So good work on
Yeah.
that. And
Oh, thank you.
to your partner for the music, which I love. I think it's got that really cool, like synth, almost 16-bit. I don't know. Like I said to you, we've had
That's
previous
exactly what
chats.
he said.
Yeah, where I said
Yeah.
it reminded
Yep.
me of a video game kind of track, and it's like perfectly suited to
Yep.
some of those photo walks. So yeah,
Yeah. Oh, thank
really
you.
good. Looking forward to seeing more. But what I want to ask about next is a little bit about your background in photography and how long you've been doing that, how you got into it, and was it a transition to film or did you start with that? And when did that all happen?
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like this is always such a long story for anyone that we ask me, how did you get into photography? But yeah, I probably been taking photos for 10 years now, and I've always shot film. I've never shot digital. Like I've shot digital a handful of times, but yeah, always film. And I think it kind of came about from when I was a teenager. I always had friends who were a bit older than me and always in bands or like, you know, artists or just around generally creative people. And I've always been, yeah, really into music, really into like art house films and stuff like that. So I kind of saw taking photos as an extension of that more than um, actually being interested specifically in sort of photography. You know how people talk about the moment when they like, first held a camera and then they wanted to know how it worked. And, like I never really had that. It was more about just doing another artistic thing. And I thought, wow, this is so cool. Like, like using something that's kind of, not a lot of people would use anymore, like, like film, like kind of a niche. I've always liked, vinyl records and stuff like that. So yeah, I just sort of had a lot of friends that were doing that, and I would just pick up like cameras in op shops. This was a long time ago, so they were really abundant and cheap. And yeah, like one of my friends in high school had a Holga, and yeah, I just was sort of doing it for fun, not really thinking about it. And then a couple of years later, when I moved to Melbourne, I got way more into shooting film like more seriously, and I did learn more of the technical side, but I was still very focused on subject composition, and just being really artistic with it, and kind of getting my inspiration from lots of different places, and just never getting bogged down with like all the technical side or gear. Like I would just use whatever I had, and I never had like much money. I was living in a share house, working in like hospo. So yeah, just like using what I had. And I just always saw it as a really fun, like cool thing to do, and like a way of expressing myself. So, and then it's just grown since then. I've had periods where I haven't shot as much, and then periods where I've shot a lot of stuff. So I've tried a lot of different things too. Like I've tried to do like the street photography kind of thing, and when I look back at my photos, I can see, oh, I was clearly into this at this time, or like I was looking at a lot of like this person's work, or I'd just been to this exhibition, or and then now I feel like I've really kind of honed my style, and I'm really comfortable with like what I'm producing now, and this is what I want to be making. So that's like a really good feeling. Like obviously you would know, like as an artist, you're always like wanting to find your style. So yeah,
for sure. And like I think we can all relate to going through those phases, so to speak. Like I had a landscape long exposure phase when that's all I ever wanted to shoot, and like macro photography even, and all kinds of stuff. So one thing I do kind of notice in terms of your current style, and just to clarify for everyone, you're currently in the Gold Coast and you've been there for a few years now, or?
Yeah, I've been here for a couple of years now, probably about 3 years. But I did grow up here. When I was till about 17, I lived here, and I actually hated it when I was a teenager because I hated the sun, and I wore a lot of black, and I wanted to like move somewhere where there was more arty and cultured. But now I've returned. I'm kind of seeing it in a different light, I suppose.
Fair enough. And what I wanted to lead into from that was that what I notice in the photography that I have seen from you is that it does seem to have this kind of reoccurring theme of like bright, sunny, not typically shot in like, let's say golden hour, which is when a lot of photographers would choose to go out and shoot these kind of scenes, or even exclusively shoot in those kind of dusky conditions. But you seem to enjoy having like those stark shadows, those like daytime. I'm not sure if you probably mentioned it even in your videos before. Is that something that's just a product of being in the Gold Coast, having sunny weather pretty often, or one of the only times you're able to go out on shoots, or is it intentional, or is it something kind of like that's a mixture of both?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. It's not intentional. I think it is a product of the weather here. Like it is super sunny like most of the time, and I do tend to go out at like midday or 1, kind of really unconventional times to shoot. Which I feel like I've always done that, and I don't want to sound silly, but like I didn't know that, I suppose, just because I wasn't paying attention to this is what you should be doing. I was always just doing what I wanted to do, I suppose. So I wasn't really aware of that. And then but now that I live here, like that sun is so like bleaching and so bright, and I just really like the look of that. And I also feel like it kind of sets me apart from like other photographers who would be shooting at golden hour, because I mean, obviously I appreciate that and like it looks really nice, but I don't want to be restricted to that. And yeah, I really like that really, really bright, like kind of harsh look. The same way I also like at night, I really like that really direct, harsh flash, like on my point and shoots. Like I just like that look.
Yeah.
Really like drawn to it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, that's interesting you mentioned that, because obviously, even though a lot of your photography might be during those bright sunny conditions, obviously there will also be some that's under overcast stuff. And most recently, you did have that night shoot you did on Lomo Purple. So of course,
Yep.
it's not always restricted to that, but sometimes I do notice that kind of common thread throughout someone's photography. And I think it is good that you haven't really done that just because it's what someone said you should do or what you are doing to emulate a certain style. And same thing goes for golden hour. Like I kind of like shooting in both or almost any condition, but
Yep.
it's not ideal to just shoot during golden hour because that's what the norm dictates and whatever. So I think that's really good. And
Yeah.
something we talked about beforehand on Instagram or whatever was kind of about the influence of pop culture on our photography. What I noticed throughout your videos is that there seems to be a heavy influence, especially of music. I was really entertained by and actually kind of surprised to see that you did an entire video about just your music. And I'm like, well, why haven't I really seen that on any other photography channels? Because it is kind of important. Like I like to talk about photo books and whatever because it does influence me and how I shoot and how I be creative. And of course I think something like movies or music can be just as influential.
Yeah.
How would you describe the level to which that pop culture stuff influences your creative work?
Yeah. It would be huge. Definitely, like probably more so than looking through a photo book, which probably sounds weird because you think that photos would inspire your photography, but yeah, watching movies was a like a huge thing when I was young. Like my family really loved like watching movies, and yeah, I was a real bedroom dweller as a teenager, always like watching movies and listening to music and stuff. So yeah, and I think now now when I look at my photography, or sorry, now when I watch movies that I watched when I was a teenager, I can see where I've got a lot of my style or composition mostly. Like I think that's where that obsession came from. Yeah, and I've always watched a lot of sort of low budget independent movies, and I really liked that sort of DIY culture. Yeah, so movies definitely huge inspiration, and then music as well, which kind of interlinks with movies. Like soundtracks. I've always been a really big soundtrack fan, and I feel like that's what we're doing now with the videos on the channel. They're sort of like a soundtrack. We're actually building a soundtrack on Bandcamp at the moment.
Yeah.
For the channel.
Nice.
So yeah, we'll hopefully have that up and running, and then people can go and listen to the music just on its own. But yeah, back to the question. Yeah, music's huge influence. I often will walk and take photos and just be listening to music. Or if I hear a certain song, I watched a lot of Rage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's still on, but it's not as good as it used to be.
Right.
But I watched a lot of Rage, like as a teenager, and a lot of video clips. Like I just was so enamored with and thought they were so cool. And that's another thing that I've tried to bring to the videos, like on the channel, try and make it sort of like a music video. You got like the song matching like the photos and just everything kind of linking up. Like all of those things have always interested me. Same with fashion or things like skateboarding, and how like skateboarding crosses over into photography so often.
Sure.
Like there's so many skateboarders that are amazing photographers. So just anything like like DIY has always been a huge influence to me, and just using what you have around you, like what's accessible to you, and making something of it. Like that sort of culture just really like speaks to me. And I just find inspiration in so many things other than just specifically looking at other people's like photography, even just conversations. I'm a huge, like, I could just talk about movies, like, have you seen this? Have you seen that? Do you like this? Like, like, and I get really pumped about that. So it's been cool to put that out there on YouTube and then have people commenting and, saying that they like that too. Like, I think we all want to be kind of validated in our interests.
For sure, so, having that common connection where it's like, I agree with you, or I can relate in some kind of way. Yeah, and I think that's definitely one of the ways we maybe had first started connecting ever so briefly, whether it's like mentioning someone like Eggleston. You were talking about that interview, or was it like an online interview? And I mentioned the podcast.
It was like an article. And
then it just creates this back and forth, like, oh yeah, you should watch this, you should read this, and then did you know blah blah about how he didn't actually shoot Kodachrome, and it's really true, for sure. And in terms of like more specifically, is there anyone, because I know we've mentioned Eggleston and we've touched on like Wim Wenders, for example, with his photography and his movies. And is there anyone else specifically who you would really kind of like attribute to being one of the main influences, whether it's like musicians or movie makers, photographers, whatever?
Yeah, probably. I'm in terms of like photography, even though these people don't necessarily, like, if you looked at their photography, you wouldn't look at mine and be like, oh yeah, I can see where you got that from, like you could maybe with Eggleston. But a huge like Richard Kern fan. I don't know if you've heard of him, but I suppose it's more sort of, it's not portraiture, but just taking photos of people. But he was always collaborating with bands and different artists, and just kind of really sort of like edgy, I guess, and like Terry Richardson, like that, those kind of things always really spoke to me. Like, it's more about like that, like it's about them as a person as well as their photography. It's not just purely like a lot of people will cite, someone like Ansel Adams or something as an inspiration, and it's about like the technical side of it. Like I've never looked at that. It's just like, wow, like those photos are really cool. Or like Ren Hang, like just having a really consistent like look to your photos, and someone can look at it and they know, that's a Ren Hang photo because of the use of red or whatever, or Terry Richardson using like direct flash, or so I was always really into like those as photographers. And then movies, probably David Lynch is a huge inspiration, and he again crosses over, like, he takes really great photos too, and his artwork's amazing, and he makes music as well, and he's just like a total genius in my opinion, and I love his films, so he'd be a really big one. And musically, someone like I suppose probably for a lot of people, but like someone like David Bowie, who can like reinvent themselves all the time. I just find that really fascinating. And I just think he's so cool. Like, he's almost like alien. Like, it's like he's not even real, because he's just so, like he's just constantly, or was constantly, reinventing himself. So I really like admire that. Right. I could go on forever, so I don't want to take up.
No, that's all right. It's interesting actually, because there's kind of like a commonality between some of these people you're mentioning, like Bowie or David Lynch. They're not necessarily extroverted, because I wouldn't say they are. But they're kind of what someone would label as eccentric characters, or
definitely
really kind of flamboyant or whatever it is. Whereas, like someone like Eggleston was a bit more reclusive, as far as I know. But
yes, he was. Like, a bit more not conservative, but like sort of hidden, and
he didn't have that outward personality that people associate with the artwork. Sometimes the artwork just lives on its own. Sometimes the work is attached to the artist, like whether it's Ren Hang or whoever it could be. So you think that that's the kind of pop culture artist that you gravitate towards, someone whose personality is attached to that work?
Yes, I think so, definitely. I think that's always appealed to me more. Like, me and my partner talk about this a lot. It's like if I hear a new song, like if you've got like Spotify radio on or something, and I'm like, oh, this sounds cool. My partner will just be listening to the instruments and the way that the song is recorded and all of that, because that's like, you know, he's very technical and that's his area. I'm like, I want to know, you know, what are they called? What do they look like? Where are they from? You know, like their whole kind of image, I suppose. That's like really important to me. I really like it if someone can create like that for themselves around the art that they're doing, and that, yeah, like adds to it rather than it standing on its own, which is probably harder actually. Like,
I guess so.
I think,
yeah,
yeah,
like,
it is, because you don't have that backup of something else to inject,
yeah,
like in there. So maybe it's me being lazy, but
I don't know
lacking
really,
that more.
because
But
it's ironic that you do really enjoy Eggleston's work and gravitate towards that style visually, but again, there isn't all that much of an outward personality that he kind of put out there, even when he did with his 16mm films and all that. So maybe it's just a matter of that discovery. At least for myself, some of the artists I enjoy the most are kind of really reclusive, like whether it's Sergio Lorraine or Fred Herzog or Saul Leiter. They're all really like reclusive.
Yeah, I like him.
Personalities, yeah. So there is a distinct difference sometimes between those types of artists. But what I wanted to kind of explore more is, how do you think that sense of what we surround ourselves with in terms of pop culture, like books, music, whatever, ends up defining not only our own personalities and who we are, but the work we make? And is it something that's avoidable? Do you feel like you're kind of stuck sometimes in this lane that you've created for yourself because of what you've surrounded yourself with? Or is it something that you're trying to resist and actually go, I don't want to keep shooting whatever this is and do something different? Or are you kind of happy in that lane?
Oh, that's really interesting. I've never thought about that before. I think I'm happy, in that lane, and happy like that, because I've always been like that, and that's how I've always sort of done everything. But I think it can restrict you to be kind of worrying about like all the sort of exterior things, like what we were saying about, you know, the work standing for itself. If you're just focusing on that and doing that. But I suppose it depends like what works for you. And I couldn't exist without like all the things that you've said, like, you know, like books, like movies, music, like fashion, all those things are so important to me. They really are, like they're like at the core of me so much.
Absolutely.
So yeah, they make up a huge part of like my personality, I suppose. But I do think that can be detrimental if it's not genuine. Like if you're wanting to be like someone else. I was talking to like Matt Murray from Matt Loves Cameras the other day about this, saying, you know, the line between something being inspired by and then something that's just sort of copied, or someone intentionally going out trying to take a photo that looks like, you know, someone else's photo. Whereas I feel like sometimes with inspiration, you don't realize until afterwards. Like sometimes I look at my photos and I'll be like, oh, it kind of looks like, you know, like something Eggleston took, but I wasn't thinking about that when I took it. It's just like you're naturally drawn. Yeah. Or are you naturally drawn to it without seeing that photo that person took? Or is it like embedded in you? Yeah, like subconsciously, and then you're drawn to it. Like I find that really interesting to think about, especially now. It's so hard because we see so much. Like you're on Instagram and Twitter, and you know, there's so many different things that you can be looking at. So we're really flooded with so many images, like more than ever.
Well, that's great that you exactly what I'm sort of trying to segue into is how it's not only pop culture, but it is also the Instagram kind of generation and that renewability that comes with that. Because I agree in what you're saying in that it is healthiest, I think, to only have it kind of in your subconscious. Like I'm always consuming whatever it is, pop culture, influences, inspiration from other photographers. But what I'm trying to avoid is to actually go out and try and emulate it too intentionally. And what ends up happening when I do enjoy the work the most is when it's just, like you said, deep in the subconscious, and you're out taking a photo, and then afterwards you notice, oh, that kind of does remind me of maybe whatever this is. And I'm proud of that. That's cool. But another trap can admit that I've fallen into is that you do see those trends, and it might not just be pop culture, and it's actually more prevalent with social media because social media is so current, so renewable, and that you're seeing what
Yeah,
everyone's doing on Instagram right now might be like this kind of color scheme of like whatever, and then
yeah,
you try and do that because you know it's going to get attention, or that's what's cool and that's what people like, and that's something
yeah,
that
yeah.
I at least have to constantly remind myself not to fall into. Do you ever struggle with
Hmm.
that, or is it like you don't tend to think about it?
No, no, I feel you definitely 100%. I think people would be lying if they said that they didn't fall into that trap.
Yeah,
You know, at least occasionally, especially with social media for
yeah.
sure. Yeah,
So how do we avoid it?
I big question. I think it's really hard. Like I, I think obviously I'm not putting anyone down saying this, but like you know, like the portrait kind of like everyone wants to shoot portrait and like you know like classic cars or stuff like that, which I really like that. Like I have no issue with that, but I do sometimes get tired of seeing that, I suppose, and I wonder when I see it so much, are people shooting it because they want to shoot it, or are they shooting it because that's what they think they should be shooting?
Yeah.
So sometimes when I'm drawn to something when I'm out, you know, taking photos, I will stop and kind of like, I guess, like check myself a little bit if it is one of those really kind of, I don't want to say like cliche, but, you know, I think, am I shooting that because I really like the way that looks?
Hmm.
Or am I taking it because I'm like, oh, like I've seen that
Yeah.
before and I should take a
Yeah.
photo of that. Do you
Oh,
know what I mean? So a
yeah.
quick little kind of
Maybe it is in
check,
your
I guess.
subconscious as well. Yeah, for sure. Like because
Yeah, but then
if
that's the thing. It gets really like, you know, it
confused.
gets kind of a bit like, yeah, 'cause it's
Mm,
hard to decipher whether, you know, and also I think at the end of the day, it's just a photo. So it's not gonna like you just shoot what you want to shoot, you
yeah,
know?
as long as you're enjoying it. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like you
Yeah.
just don't want to get stuck in that trap because everything is probably recycled from something before it. Whether it was like Stephen
Of
Shaw
course.
shooting old cars, which weren't old at the
Yes.
time, and then like it becomes this
Yes.
a
Yep.
certain
Yep.
visual aesthetic. Yeah, I mean what I think is that I mean I don't really have an answer, but what I've started to kind
Yeah.
of
I was gonna
discover
say,
is
what
that
about you?
yeah, just sort of like taking on multiple sources of inspiration. Like it's fine to look at Instagram and whatnot, but don't restrict yourself to that because what Instagram will feed you is just what it thinks you like, which is what you've already
Yeah.
liked or what your friends
It's more
like.
of the
And
same. Yeah.
exactly. So I really believe in kind of going out and exploring new mediums, whether it's like photo books or movies. For me,
Hmm.
movies is also a really big one. And then having
Yeah.
all of those in your subconscious repertoire to inform you
Yes.
on the streets or wherever it is that you're shooting.
Yep.
And then what will happen is that you just kind of can let go of all that, be present, and whatever kind of attaches itself to what you're seeing in that moment will kind of hopefully show up in the work. And that's like something that I'm at least kind of not struggling all the time with, but
Mm.
trying to remind myself to do because I will see that classic car and still want to take a photo. And I do. If it's cool, I'll
Yeah.
do it, but I'll do
Yeah.
it
Yeah. For
just
sure.
because I enjoy it. But yeah, that's,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
definitely. I agree with you. I think that's a good I think getting yourself out of your like comfort zone is a great way of kind of combating that as well. Like I try and do that a lot, like shoot I think shooting a different film stock can be really refreshing, even
Okay.
if you don't like it
Yep.
that much when you've got it back. It's sort of just like, you know, you gave it a go, you did something new, and
Mm,
then sometimes it's better to know what you don't like. I
yep.
think like you know or why you don't like something can often teach you more than just, oh, I really like that and I really like shooting that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that, and I agree with you, like getting off Instagram and doing and like looking through photo books. Like there's nothing better than having a tangible, you know, like thing to look at rather than just being on your phone. Like
Yeah.
the appreciation level is very different. Yeah, I think, and definitely movies too. If I'm feeling really like in a rut or, you know, just really not inspired, like if I like watch a movie that really, whether it's something I haven't seen in a really long time that I used to watch, like we were talking about, like Jim Jarmusch, like one of his old movies that I haven't seen in ages, and then I'm watching it, you know, 10 years later as an adult, and I'm like, oh wow, like thinking about the teenage me watching it, and then I'm like, I can see where I got all of this from, or yeah, it just kind of resets you. And yeah, I think that's like a good way of
Yeah.
kind of
I think
combating it. Yeah.
that's a really good one. And I think you kind of made a really good point there when you said, in the sense of maybe he's trying a new film stock or whatever, because it might either open a new door for you. You might be like, wow, I love Lomo Purple, this is my new thing, or alternative
Yeah.
kind of stocks. Or it might, like exactly like you said, remind you what it is you do like. You might be like, okay, I definitely don't like this kind of stuff. It must be that I'm leaning more towards the other side. And otherwise, maybe it will open a new door. Like for me, being terrified of street photography initially is why I forced myself to just try it. And then I eventually
Yeah.
started to like it. And then it might not be like
Mm-hmm.
that for everyone, but it is worth trying those new things that you're kind of resistant to.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think like, yeah, it's always good to sort of, yeah, do something that you really, even if you're really like not against it, but if you just don't, it's like, oh no, I would never shoot, you know, that film stock or that camera or whatever. Like, I think you can be really surprised sometimes with what you get. And that's really, really refreshing. And yeah, if you're in a rut, that's like a really good thing to do for sure. Yeah.
Nice. So, what is next on the horizon for the channel? Do you have any upcoming plans that you are looking forward to? And where is the channel at least going, as well as your photography? Why not chuck that in there as well?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, so we've got lots of plans. You're probably the same. I have like a notebook and I write down all my ideas,
Yeah.
which are just like constant, and they don't all happen. But yeah, we've got a couple of things coming up. I recently did a photo walk with Matt from Matt Loves Cameras. He lives in Brisbane, so yeah, he came down for the day and just, yeah, we shot some photos. So that video will be coming out soon. And yeah, we've got lots more photo books and stuff that I want to review as well. And I want to try and do some like movie reviews, or just sort of movies that have inspired my photography, like how I did the music one, and kind of make that a regular thing on the like on the channel.
Yeah.
And hopefully like people can connect and chat and like, you know, give other recommendations. I'm gonna start making a zine,
Yes.
which is really exciting. Nice. Yeah, I read a lot of zines when I was a teenager, but more like some photos, but mostly music ones, like you know, stapled together, like printed just pages, and it would be like, you know, record reviews or whatever. And so yeah, I've always been really into like the like zine kind of culture, so I'm really excited to make my own one. Obviously with photo zines, they've got to be a bit more higher quality because you know you want it to like look good. So yeah, so I'm gonna get that going. Especially seeing your zine made me, I was like, I have to do this because it looks so good. Well, and it must be so nice to have them all, the photos like all together like that, you know.
No, I appreciate it. And it's interesting because you're talking about, I guess, the original and true sense of like what a zine was, or maybe still is, but that kind of just really rough put together sort of thing. And I don't think it really needs to be of a certain quality. And that's the beauty of the zine, is that it can just be something you photocopied or printed at home, rather than produced with like the ultimate quality that almost borders on what you would expect from a photo book at the bookstore.
Photo book, yeah. I think that's definitely the beauty of zines. Like, and again, it's that DIY culture. I actually think I'm actually way more like psyched to look through a zine than I am a photo book. Like, I have a lot of photo books, and you know, like they're quite expensive. And when I get like a zine sent from someone like yours, or like Matt from Matt Loves Cameras, he gave me a bunch when I saw him. And there's another guy on Instagram, Luxury Vacuum, he takes really cool photos, and I got his zine sent to me, and I was like, wow, this is so cool, because like, you know, it's like you posted it, and yeah, it's just so much more personalized, and yeah, I just appreciate that so much more. I've always liked smaller scale kind of things like that, so yeah, I'm excited to put together a zine. I have heard it can be quite a grueling process.
Can be.
So yeah, just
but it's
picking
fun.
out the photos, but yeah, I'm sure it's seems like something that you'd be really proud of like afterwards. So
For sure.
and hopefully going to start selling some prints, maybe like set up like a darkroom tech like website. So we've got lots of plans, and we've got the band camp that we're going to put together too, just so the music from the channel has a place to live.
Yeah.
I've had a few people ask about that, and if they want to, they can like put it on, you know, in the car or whatever. It's like, very soundtracky kind of 80s synth stuff that people seem to be really enjoying, and like gets people really nostalgic. So
for sure, that's the feeling I get.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. And
Yeah.
can you talk about what you're going to be putting into the zine, or are you sort of saving that as a surprise?
I'm probably going to. I was struggling with this. I was actually talking to another photographer on Instagram about it. Like with a zine, should it be like photos that you've never shown to anyone before, so it's all brand new, or does it have to be a project where like this is what I did, and these photos mean this, or can it just be a selection of photos that you've taken? And I think it can be anything, but I tried not to get too sort of bogged down with that, and I think I'm just gonna pick out photos I've already taken, because I've taken like so many, and I'm gonna go through, pick them out. I've already got the name of the zine in my head as well, which is always good. I think it's, if you've got a title of something, it kind of gives you more of an idea of like where you're going to go, and it informs like what pictures you'll choose. And I think, well, I hope that my photos look quite consistent anyway and have like a vibe or a theme to them. So I think it'll be quite easy to pick them out and put them in a book. And I just want to do it so it's done. Like I think sometimes I spend a lot of time thinking about doing something and not doing it. And I think the best thing to do is to just literally just do
start.
it. Like,
that's
like if you want to do like YouTube, like just do it. Like you can watch a million YouTube videos on like how to do something, but it's just kind of procrastinating. Like, like what's the worst that can happen?
Learn as
I find
you go.
that I think we've spoken about it before, but that the contact sheet podcast is really good. Like I find that really like I feel like he's like my therapist. I find it really like helpful, like creatively to listen to.
For sure.
And he's got a lot of stuff about creative process, or
he's all about the process,
or social media, or like being in a rut, or anyone who's listening who needs some better advice than what I'm giving, contact sheets.
Well, for sure. If you're not listening to Kyle McDougall's contact sheet, do check that out. But I think that's great. And like what you're saying about whether the work's already been shot or published online or whatever, I agree that it can go either way. And the beauty of if you've only ever put it out on Instagram is that never does it justice. So when you put it out into print, even if it's a little zine like what I did, it still feels and looks so much better, and it's just much more enjoyable for whoever might pick it up and read it. So I think that's great. And good luck with it.
Thank you. Hopefully we can get it done this year. But it's hard to tick all the things off your list. But at the same time, I like it when you've got lots of ideas. Like it's better to have lots of ideas than be, stuck for something. So but I really enjoy like just making YouTube videos as well. Like it's really fun. I've always dreamt of being like a director, or an actor, or being in a music video, even though I can't play an instrument. Like, I was always dreaming when I was young about like, not like being famous necessarily, but just, I guess, cause like we were saying, I really sort of, like romanticized a lot of things. And I like the everything that surrounds the person, like all the artists. So I always had, dreams of doing lots and lots of things. And then life sort of just,
happened.
Got away from me. And it's funny because now I've had a baby and now I'm doing it. It's kind of a bit backwards. Like I had all that time to do it and I didn't do it, and now I have no time and I'm doing it. So you just never know like what's going to happen, or when you're going to start doing, like the creative thing that you always wanted to do. Like it's never too late.
I mean, it is never too late. That's exactly right. So is there anywhere else you want to kind of direct some of the audience? Obviously, there's your YouTube channel, which I'll have linked in the description of this video. There's the Instagram, which I'll also have both below the screen here and in the description. Anything else that you want to kind of direct people towards?
I don't think we're doing anything else at the moment. Like I said, we're setting up the
The
Bandcamp,
Bandcamp.
so I'll probably pop that in the links of my like future videos.
Yep.
And yeah, hopefully getting some prints up. Just got to go through negatives and do that whole thing. So, but yeah, no, just if anyone hasn't like seen the videos, yeah, it would mean so much to watch them. I'm really amazed at how it's grown in a short space of time. You know, I was like, oh no, like 2 people will watch it and it'll just be a disaster, you know? So, yeah, it's been really great. And I've connected with so many really amazing people, and it's really changed my, my outlook on like the film, like community, because, I was actually speaking to Sarah, about it a while ago, but I stopped taking photos for maybe 2 years when I lived in Melbourne, because I got really kind of like disheartened and felt really like I didn't have a place, you know, like in the community, and it was very male kind of dominant, which sort of put me off. And I was younger, so I was a lot more sensitive than I am now. But yeah, it's nice to see that being spoken about like more and more, and like females getting, you know, more representation. And I've had a lot of like especially younger kind of girls message me on Instagram even and say like, you know, oh, I was really nervous to shoot Cine still, you know, and like I've seen you in your video just doing it in a point and shoot, like without a tripod or whatever, and that has like made me feel really, you know, excited to do it. So that means so much to me. Like that means more to me than yeah, like getting more subscribers or views or anything like that. Like I get so pumped when I get a message like that on Instagram. Like it makes you feel all warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, I mean that it is a valid thing. Even though you were younger, it is something that is kind of still happening, and I'm seeing more about that throughout, whether it's YouTube or Instagram. What do you think? I mean, for the audience listening or anyone really, can be done in order to kind of shift it in a better direction to make it more of an equal playing ground in terms of like exposure or whatever it might be in terms of photography?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's a hard one to answer because these things are always really
well. Do you think it's heading in the right direction currently?
I think so. Yeah, I think by talking about it more, it's raising like awareness of it, and it's making people maybe like check themselves. Like I think a lot of male photographers maybe hadn't even thought about that, and which is fine. Sure. And then it's like, oh wow, I didn't realize that I was having that impact, or you know, whatever. So I think that's a good start. I was talking to Christopher Sturm, like the photo department guy on YouTube, because he has a podcast which is really good. Sounds like all I do is listen to podcasts. The Spooky Park Bench, and that's really cool. And I was talking to him about photography and gender, and I was saying that it kind of does. It annoys me a little bit that females have to in order to get exposure or get seen, like, you know, on whatever platform it is, we're sort of forced to like hashtag, you know, female photographer, or, you know, it's like women with film
Wednesdays,
like Wednesday, or, you know, and I get like, while those tags are really great, it frustrates me that I have to be like, oh, I'm a woman and I'm doing this, because there's no male hashtag male photographer.
Yeah, for
do you know what I mean?
Like, I mean, you shouldn't need to be doing that ideally to kind of get the level of representation. But it's good that you mentioned like Women with Film Wednesdays, and I think there's other groups, or I mean, I think it's Danielle who organized that, is part of like a larger collective, and I'm seeing kind of more growth in that space, and Discord groups kind of popping up. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. And Ribsy from the UK, who I had a chat with, he's been trying to kind of really focus on representing, whether it's like, you know, people of color or women or people who don't normally show up on your typical podcasts, over on his podcast. So I think that's another one worth checking out.
Yeah, his podcast is great. I've only listened to a couple episodes, but I watched the In Conversation with him on your channel, and he's really great. And I liked how he said that he's not sort of drawing too much attention to it is just like that's who he's having on,
Just
you
do
know,
it.
because that's how it should be. It shouldn't be like a tokenistic thing. It should just be your work is great and it doesn't matter like who you are or what you look like, or you know. So
For sure.
I hope to see that more and more. But I think in general, like, you know, the youth today is a lot more aware of that. So as they move forward, I think things will become, you know, just more organically more like that way. And it really excites me to see young, I know, like younger than me, like someone who's like, you know, 16 or 17 and they've got like a film camera and they're using that because it's just such an exciting thing to like first discover that. And I wouldn't want anyone to feel left out of film because they're intimidated by gear or not having enough money to buy a certain thing, or hopping on YouTube and seeing everyone shooting with a Leica or a Mamiya or whatever, you know, because you don't need that to make good photos. And I genuinely believe that, and I try and show that as well. So
that's great. And I think because like, especially, you know, someone younger is easily intimidated, and even if it's, let's say, just the majority of like photographers are friendly and helpful, all it takes is for that one bad egg, so to speak, to just be a you know, a bully about something and just belittle someone, whether it's online or after asking a question, to kind of leave a sour taste in someone's mouth and like be too afraid to ask someone until they come across maybe someone like you who is relatable enough to kind of slowly erase a bit of that stigma and say, oh, hey, like, you know, I can ask you about this. You're relatable, whether it's for being a female or whatever else. But it's those bad eggs that we need to kind of squash, I think, and kind of eliminate some of that mentality of elitism that comes with photography, which thinks I know about gear, so I know better than you. Where it's
therefore that translates to being a better photographer or whatever. That's not necessarily true. And also it's fine to also be really into gear too. Like I'm not trying to slam anyone for what they like. Like my partner is very like,
well, me too.
Yes. And
using that just purely as like one example amongst many. But you mentioned like Kyle McDougall in the podcast. He had an episode, I can't remember what it was called, but it was all about like sort of that kind of discrimination that happens online in like Reddit groups and whatever, where people just like kind of go on groups just
thinking that
to shit on other people's work and whatever. And I can totally see that myself. I've kind of, you know, stopped using Facebook, not only for that reason, but because I would not enjoy going on Facebook groups anymore because of the level of like just utter bullshit and people putting each other down and trying to one up each other about their knowledge and whatever. And I think that needs to stop, and to create like a more, you know, open space, and just don't laugh at someone for having a question that seems silly or whatever. I get them all the time, and I'll just, you know, answer as nicely as I could.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're very approachable. And generally most of the interactions I've had have been really good. It's more on those larger spaces, like what you're saying with Facebook. I actually don't have Facebook, but Daniel has posted some of the videos like early on to kind of, you know, get them out there and to film photography groups. And you know, it was just like, oh my God, this is just a cesspool of, you know, like people commenting, and it's just it's not even about like what someone's put up. And it's just can really it can really put someone off doing something. And I think that that's probably responsible for a lot of the for uploads on YouTube. And then I stopped doing my thing, you know, my channel or what I, you know, because it's really easy to get really put off by comments like that. And again, a lot of them on when there was this thread from one of my videos, I just read a little bit of it and then that was it. But a lot of it was like aimed at sort of, you know, like, why would I take advice from someone who's like half my age, or you know, and it was all just like, you know, like 50-year-old like white men kind of, you know, talking about their likers, and it becomes a bit of a like a circle jerk, and it's like, are you know, like it's supposed to be about taking photos, and
no, it's common.
I think that needs to
well, I mean, at the end of the day, I've kind of come to accept that at least here on YouTube, there's always going to be kind of like that bit of hate and ugly comments and stuff you'll get.
Yeah.
And at first, like, I really let it get to me, and it'd be, hours of my day just wasted thinking about like what I want to say to this
Yeah.
person or whatever. I don't end up doing it because
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
now it's gotten to the point where it's like, I just accept it and wait for it. Like, it's never going to go away. What I would like is for it to at least reduce to the point where it's not so problematic to have something like what happened to you on Facebook, for example, because like,
Yeah.
there's always someone who's trying to make themselves, feel better about themselves by bringing someone else down. So like, it's just kind of look at it in that lens and accept it to a certain degree, and just keep doing
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
doing, because you can't let it affect your output. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's really nice to hear that from other people. And yeah, I think if anyone else is feeling like that, like reaching out to someone and saying that you feel like that, like, it helps. Like if I feel like that and I talk to, like my partner, he will reassure me that, that's just one
Mm,
bad comment, or it's just something that one person said, and we focus on the bad and not on all
of
the good
course.
things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're so worried about, everyone liking everything all the time, and because of social media probably. But it's fine. We don't all have to like everything, but people can just be like, yeah, not nice about it, or you don't have to watch it. That's the great thing about YouTube. You can
Mm,
choose what you want to watch. That's why it's so cool.
yeah. Just don't be a complete jerk about it too, if you don't like
Yes,
something.
exactly. Yeah, don't be a jerk.
All right. Well, this has been a great chat. I think we should
Yeah, I've
maybe
enjoyed this so
do the
much.
the live stream one sometime in the future too. We chatted about like whether we do this live or not live, and if anyone in the audience
Yep.
watching this is interested, let us know so that we can maybe queue up something in the live chat format so people can kind of like contribute
Yeah,
during the chat.
definitely. I'd love to
Yeah,
like hear people's questions, and yeah, we can yeah, definitely tee that up if people are interested. Yeah, for sure. I hope everyone's like enjoyed the conversation. I've had like a great time. I could just keep sitting here and chatting.
for sure. All right. Well, thanks again for doing this. And anyone watching, make sure you check out and subscribe to Lucy Lumen's Analog Adventures. Follow her on Instagram, and then you'll hear about the announcement of like the Bandcamp and whatever other future projects you have coming up. And
Yep.
yeah, we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Okay, thank you
All
so
right.
much, Hashim.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.